Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Temitope. Today we'll be sewing this double-breasted short collar dress. We already have the drafting tutorial. If you have not seen it, I'm going to leave a description in the comment section. So kindly like this video, comment, and also subscribe to my channel. So let's get started. So this is the front part. This is the center front. So I already ironed stay on it on both sides, and I'm also done the same thing to the lining. So now I'm going to be joining the side front to the center front. So I'll be starting from the shoulder area. You can see that's the shoulder area, so I'm going to join it there. Then I'm going to pin it all around so that will be easier for me. And after pinning it, I'm going to run a stitch on it. Now this is the center back. I'm going to bring the side back to it, and then I'm going to make sure that the right side is facing the right side. And then I'm going to be placing it and be joining the shoulder area first where we have the shoulder dart. So I'm going to pin it all around, and then run a stitch across it with half of an inch, which is the same allowance. And then I'm going to flip it open, and I've done the same thing to the other side. So you can see I already open it up and then flat iron it. I was doing the interlocking before, but I stopped. Then I'm going to continue later. Then the center, I'm going to hold it together like that, just like this, and then I'm going to run a stitch around it. But before that, I'm going to pin it so as to put it in place. So I've already done that. This is it, and I've also gone ahead to flat iron it so that everything can be flat. So now what we're going to be doing is we'll be joining the shoulder of the back to the front. So I'm going to bring the front pattern now, and then place the shoulder on that of the back pattern. You can see that it's the shoulder that I'm placing, and the back collar is left hanging. You can see it's going to be hanging there. So I'm going to make sure that it aligns, and then I'm going to pin it down because that will make it easier for me to work with. And then from this point, I'm going to be sewing across it. I'm going to run a stitch like this only on the shoulder area. Now I've gone ahead to do that. I've run a stitch on it, but what I'm going to be doing now is that for this point I'm going to be notching it like half of an inch so that it will be easier for me to flip the collar, the back collar, and so on the back area. So now that I've done it, I'm going to patiently place it all around the back area. So when I want to sew it, I'm just going to lift my footer up and then turn it around. So I'm first going to pin this, but I'm not going to sew everything because that place I'm going to be joining the other part to it. So I'm going to leave some opening to give me the space to join. So there I'm going to lift my footer up at that junction and then turn the collar around, then I'll be able to sew it. So I've already done that. You can see I've done it to both sides. I've joined it. I've already notched the other side, so you can see the other side. So now I'm going to be closing up the center so that I can close up the collar area, the back collar area. So I'm going to sew it up. Then after sewing it, I'm going to sew it down like this. So now I've done that already. You can see the way it's looking. This is the front and the back. And so this is the lining. I'll be closing the lining also, and I'll be flipping it like this. Then I'm going to place it on the front fabric, on the front clothes. So now I'm going to pin it at that center so that the mark can align. And then I'm going to also be pinning it all around because I'll be sewing it all around on both sides. I'm going to be sewing it all around. Then for this part, my lining is shorter than the main fabric. That's because my fabric is not enough. So you don't have to make your lining shorter than the main fabric. So because it's shorter, I'm going to be closing it up down here so that the main clothes can draw it up, and then I'm going to be sewing it down. So this already actually reduced the length of my gown by an inch. So now I've already sewn it. Then what I'll be doing is notching it all through. So I'm going to make sure that I notch and I didn't cut through the seam. So now the next thing is how we are going to close the collar, like the neck area, the back area. We are going to use the lining to close up the neck area, the back area. so that it's going to give us a neat finishing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it to the right side like this, and then I'm going to bring the back in between the two collars. So you can see the way I'm doing it. I'm going to be very careful so that I can get a very good finishing. So once you put it like that, you're going to pin it down. So once you pin it down, it's going to be easy for you to work with. So I'm going to bring a pin and pin it down. Then I'm going to make sure that I pin everywhere all around. And then I'll be running a seam on it. So I'll make sure that the seam I'm running is below the previous seam so that I can cover it up. And then to actually get this on, just like I did to the front, I notched the angle where the collar, the shoulder is joining the back collar. So I'll also do that here too, so that it will be easy for me to work around the collar. So I'm just going to run a stitch around it like this. Then just like I did to the front, when I get to that juncture, I'm going to lift my footer up and then turn it the other way. So I'm just going to notch those points now so that it will be easy for me to flip around and then sew the back area. So now I've gone ahead to turn it to the other side. I wanted to show a video of this, but I don't know, I don't have the clip, but it's very easy. You just pull it out on one side and everything will be okay. But yeah, I've gone ahead to iron it because I have to do a lot of ironing for these clothes to actually lay this flat and to look nice. So now what I want to do is to make sure that the collar aligns with the other part of the jacket. So I'm going to make sure the collar aligns at that dot line. You can see the way I placed it, so that that collar is on the other side dot line. And then I'm going to be pinning it down. You can see everything is laying well, even the collar. So I'm going to be pinning it down so that it does not shift. So I'm going to pin it all the way down like this so that it won't shift and it can stay in place. And what I'll be doing is I'll be flipping it to the other side in order to shape it to the wrong side. So I'll be shaping it from the back. Remember that I said earlier that when I was cutting that I made a mistake. I was supposed to cut on the outer point at the waistline, but I used the inner one, and that affected my seam allowance. So here you can notice that the waist is not aligning with the front part. That was because of the mistake I made while I was drafting this pattern. So I'm just going to pin it all around here and try to mark it. So I try to do it from the waist first, since that place is kind of smaller, so that I can see if I still have some allowance. So fortunately I still have like about 1/4 of an inch allowance that I can take on both sides. And so I went ahead to measure the bust. So I divided my bust measurements by 2, and then I'm marking what I have there. And even there I have 3/4 of an inch left on each side. I realized that while I was doing my interlocking, so it cut out some of the allowance I assigned for it. So that's why it's not up to 1 inch allowance. And then on the hip area, what I did is I subtract 4 inches from my hip measurements. Then I divide it by 2. So that was what I used to get the part that is closer to the hip, that lower part. So that was what I used. So I'm just going to go ahead and use a chalk to mark the line from up to down, so just like I'm doing. And so I've gone ahead to sew both sides, and this is what it gives me. So you can see that I've pinned all these points down so that it can stay put and lay flat, and it'll be easy for me to work with. And so next thing I'll be doing is the pleating area, the pleated area. So the lower part, I'm going to be folding it twice, maybe like a 1/2 an inch, and then I'll be ironing it. So I'll be running a stitch across it. Then I've already done that, so you can see. Then the upper part is what I'll be pleating on. So I'm going to be taking 2.5 inches for a start, and then I'll be pleating in 3/4 of an inch. And the next spacing I'll be putting is 2 inches. And I'll make sure that I also have 3/4 of an inch at the depth of what I'll be folding in. Now if I had enough fabric, like I've used 2.5 or 3 times my hip measurement, I would have been using 2 inches, 1.5 inches space, and then 1 inch depth for my pleats. So here I'll just have to work with the fabric that I have. So now that I've already made that, I'm going to leave a spacing of 2 inches. Now I made this one 2.5 because I'm going to be sewing half of an inch inside there, so that's why it's 2.5. So the next will be 2 inches, and then I'll be taking in 3/4 of an inch as the pleating depth, and then I'm going to pin that also, and then continue like that. So I'll just keep making the pleats like that. So next I'm also going to measure 2 inches like that, then make sure that I have 3/4 of an inch pleated inside. So you can make yours 1 inch pleated inside, then 1.5 as space if you have enough fabric, maybe like 2.5 times or 3 times of your hip measurement. And so that's how I'm just going to continue everything. I'll make sure I'm pinning it down so as to put it in place. So now I've gone ahead to pleat everything and I've hold it in place. So I'm going to run a stitch on it so as to put it in place. And now this is the front part. What I'll be doing now is I'll be folding the pleated area into 2. So now that front part will be the one that I'll be joining to the front part here. So I'm going to make sure that I join it from the lower part. So I'm going to open it up like this and then place it on it. So I'm going to adjust it in such a way that there will not be space there. All the space I will have will be at the upper part. So you can see I'm bringing it down, but I want to leave half of an inch at the lower part. So that will be the joining allowance, the seaming allowance for the joining that will be joining to the upper part. So you can see I'm leaving half of an inch there. So I'm going to be pinning that place down so that it can stay put, it can lay flat and it will not be shifting. And so what I'll be doing is I'll be laying the other parts well, and then I'm going to have to measure it so as to ensure that I have the desired length. So I'll just make sure that it's like half of an inch higher than my actual length. So I'll need to pin as much as I can so that I can get the perfect shape or perfect outcome. So now I'm going to measure it and make sure that it's the desired length that I want. So now I'm working with gown length of 41 inches. So I want it to be 41.5 inches. And so I'm going to measure the other side too. And so now I've gotten it. So I'm going to use a chalk to mark it all across so as to indicate where the pleat will be. And now that I've done the front parts, I'll have to work on the back part. So you can see that the pleat is the whole pleating. I folded it into 2. So that means I'm cutting both sides together. The front part is on fold. So I'm just going to go ahead to pin everywhere so that I will not lose the pleat by the time I cut through the shock. And I'm also pinning the other side too. So now I'm going to be working on the back side. So I'm going to fold the back side into 2, making sure that the side seam is aligning with each other. This is where I'm putting it. So I'm going to pin it together so that it can stay put. And then I'm going to be placing it on the pleats. You can see I started the center. I make sure that it stops at where the front stopped. And then I'm going to continue like that. You can see that it's working. It's actually gets all around the area, the upper hip area. So now I have to measure to ensure that I have my desired length, which is 41.5 inches, since I'll be using 1/2 inches to join it to the upper part back. And so you have to make sure that you actually get everything. So now I'm going to pin this part also, and the other area too. I'm going to adjust it, measure it, make sure that it gives me my actual length, and I'm also going to pin it down. So now I've gotten the desired length that I want, so I'm just going to pin it down. And then I'm also going to shock it like I shocked the front part. So shocking it from the other side will be better, because that way it will not open the pleat. So now the shock will meet the front part, so you can see the shape that is giving me. So now I'm going to remove it, pin the pleats low end at the lower part of the chalk so that I don't lose the pleats by the time I cut it. And then I'm going to measure what I have there so that I can use it on the other side too, to position my pins. So, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going to use it to position my pins all around so that by the time I cut through, I don't lose my pleat. I will not have to start figuring out how to pleat it again. So now I'll just go ahead and cut through the length. So now I'm going to be running a stitch across the pleat so as to put the pleats in place. So I've already done that. Now I'm going to bring my pleat to the front part, and then I'll be sewing. So I'll be sewing from the lower part because I want it to align. I do not want to have any excess at that lower part. So I'm going to bring it down, and then whatever excess I have will be at the upper part, but I shouldn't have any excess because I already measured it. So I'm going to be lifting my footer up there and then flipping it around. Then I'll be running it all across the other part. So I've already done that, and you can see the outcome. This is the dress. I've gone ahead to iron it too. So the next thing we'll be doing now is the sleeve area. So I'm going to be bringing the sleeve together. I've already marked the part indicating the front part. You can see that the front part is deeper than the back part of the sleeve. So now I'm going to measure around the sleeve, and I'm also going to measure the upper part of my sleeve here too. And so I have 1/4 of an inch left there, half of an inch. So I'm going to mark it there. Then on the lower part, I'm marking 1 inch, and also at the elbow area, I'm also marking 1 inch. So I'm going to join it, and then the lower part, I'm going to fold it in by 1 inch. And so I've done that. As you can see, I've joined this side and the lower part, and now I'll be fixing it on the dress. So the middle part there, I do not want to notch it, so I'm just going to chalk it to indicate the middle part. So now I'll be fixing it to the dress. So the armhole part, where we have the join, I'm going to join it to the lower part of the armhole like that. I'm going to pin it down so that it can align, and then I'm also going to pin the chalk area to the shoulder part. Then I'll be sewing it across, and I'll also be doing the same thing to the other side of the dress, of the sleeve. And so I already sew my sleeve. You can see how it is. That's the sleeve is in place, and I've ironed everything so that I can lay flat. You have to do a lot of ironing. So next thing I'll be doing now is placing my buttons, where my buttons are going to be. So I'm just going to place it like this, just like you are seeing me do. I have 6 buttons, so I'll be placing the first 3 like this, and the other 3 will be on the other side, just like I am doing. But then I'll have to make sure that okay, it aligns or it's accurate. So I'll be checking where I'll be placing the buttons, but first let me check with my tape if it's uniform. So I make it 4 inches space in between. The spacing is 4 inches, and then vertically I think I have 4.5 to 5 inches space. So I just make sure that the spacing is equal. And then this part, the button area, I'm just only going to be having 3 buttonholes, and that will be for the front part where I'm marking. The ones that is on the back side, I will only be tacking the buttons. I will not be having buttonholes there. So it's this part that I'll be having buttonholes here, but these ones I'll be tacking them. So yeah, I'm going to open that to be able to locate where the button is going to be at the inner part, because the button is actually be on the inner part, and at the upper and the front part here there's going to be buttonholes. So the button will be underneath like this, and then it will come out through the buttonhole, but the other one there, I'm just going to tag the button to the upper fabric. It's not going to be tagged to the other one. So guys, this is the finished look. Thank you so much for watching. Kindly like this video, subscribe, and also give your comments. Thank you so much. See you in my next video. Bye.